I want to ask you a question this morning as we start, and be honest. I want you to raise your hand if you've ever put off something to the last minute. I remember back in my college days, that was about 72 to 76. It was the hippie era, and my hair was down to about my elbows like everybody else, except I looked good. And wore clothes that were ridiculous in that time, if any of y'all remember that. I know Robert remembers that because he showed up at my house wearing the same ridiculous suit I was. Anyway, all that aside, I remember that I was a fraternity member of Beta Theta Pi, and we were a well-known fraternity, not in a good way mostly, but we were well-known. But we had a good sports team. Our guys were good, and every year we won the Orange Cup or the Blue Cup, whatever that was up for a challenge. And we were very good at what we did, but one of the things we did, and we won every year for being the most creative, was the homecoming float. Y'all ever build a float in high school maybe, or college? Well, we would get this big, giant trailer. It was huge, and then we'd have a truck pull it, and then it would sit in the front yard of the Beta house, and for weeks the guys would work on it and build it, and they were pretty incredible structures. 1 week, or 1 year, somebody was put in charge of it who had the wrong date for homecoming. And we saw everybody else build a float, and we didn't build the float because we thought, well, they're too early. Well, we didn't know it, but they moved homecoming. So the month that we thought it was in, it wasn't in, it was a month earlier. So for the first time, we were not in a position to win the best float. So the guys threw something together. They said, listen, I know what we can do. And they threw a bunch of boards up on the back of the trailer, and they hammered it all in, and they made a big old sign that said, we thought homecoming was next month. We didn't win, but we still entered the float, and it went down the street. And we learned a lesson. You can't put off to the last minute what should have been done 3 months ago. Now I ask you again, have any of you spent an all-nighter cramming for a final exam? Mm-hmm. Did you have 16 weeks to study for that exam? Mm-hmm. That's human nature. I forget what comedian said it, but whoever said it was right. It says, why do today what you could put off indefinitely? Well, the fact of the matter is, you can't put everything off indefinitely. And when we do, it often has very tragic consequences, as in the case of Noah. Noah was told by God to build an aircraft carrier, basically, in the middle of a desert. He didn't do it overnight. It wasn't a weekend project. It took him about 87 years to build this boat that God wanted him to build. And how it was done, who knows? He and his 3 sons, Larry, Moe, and Curly, and their 4 wives, so there was 8 of them on board that boat. And they built this boat all the while to the ridicule of the surrounding communities. And they made fun of it, and when they had nothing else to do, they'd go out and make fun of Noah. But the thing is, for 87 years, there's this guy building this huge ship in the middle of the desert, professing that God's real mad at you guys, and he's going to do something about it. And they didn't care. They partied on, Well, flash forward a zillion years to Jesus Christ. He's walking around teaching, and he's preaching about how one of the big major themes of his preaching was accountability. Sooner or later, the check's going to come due. And everybody said, yeah, we'll take care of that. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Well, wow, that's taking a chance. What if there's no bridge? And over again, Jesus said, be ready. Be ready. You don't know the day nor the hour. Well, give us a sign, said the priests. Show us. Give us some proof, and we'll believe you. And then Jesus spoke this word he spoke today. No sign will be given save one. And that is the sign of Noah. Well, see, the priests would have known that sign. They were eating and they were drinking, they were marrying and being given in marriage, they were buying, they were selling, they were planting, they were partying, they were doing anything and everything except giving God the time of day. Right up until the day the Lord closed the door of that ark. Boom. That ark was huge. That door was huge. Once the Lord shut it and sealed it, Noah couldn't open it even if he wanted to. Three times we are told in this scripture, after Noah entered the ark as God commanded and the water prevailed upon the earth, all life was blotted out. All life was lost. All life perished. The only life that survived was the life on board that boat. That boat was God's promise. This morning we're going to look at these lessons that we have to learn because, human nature can be very dangerous. Well, I'll take care of it some other time. Well, what about that lump you felt? Well, I'll deal with that next, after Christmas. Wow. What about that thing on your arm that looks like melanoma? Well, I'll deal with it sooner or later. Wow. How careful we have become, how conscious we have become of our health and our cholesterol and our triglycerides and our little discolorations and figures and a lump and a bump in an effort to preserve a life that may just be outside that boat. We're going to talk about that this morning. There's some things that human nature that we need to change or at least be aware of. But first I want you to stand one final time.